I'm excited about what is currently happening in Canada with the Freedom Convoy. And if you are not filled in on the goings on, right now there is around 50,000 trucks, I believe, that are driving from various directions in Canada towards Ottawa, where Justin Trudeau, this small man who pretends to be the overlord of everyone in Canada, he is now in hiding. He's supposedly gone down with a corona infection, and I'm guessing that that is not actually the real story, because here we have 50,000 truckers, and rumor also has it that there is about 50,000 coming up from the United States. And who knows, it sounds like a massive groundswell of people who have had enough with the tyranny of these small toxic males. And they are driving towards him, demanding a change in policies. And as a friend of mine pointed out just yesterday, it only seems to be two options available for Trudeau at this point. One, he rises up with the various powers that are at his disposal, revealing himself to be a tyrant, or he just takes it and he actually yields and gives Canadians back their freedoms, because this is the demand of these truckers. They're in a world now where there's a for them just recently imposed for even crossing the border, and this is enough for them. This is the line that they're drawing. And Canadians all over this big, great country are rising up in support. And if you are watching the heterodox news sources, like The Hill is reporting on this, Breaking Points is reporting on this, but also if you're, anywhere on Telegram or alternative news sources, Fox News, I think, are reporting on this. Russian television is reporting on this. But mainstream television obviously doesn't report on this because they are a propaganda branch of the authoritarian governments around the world. And Trudeau's idea here is that these truckers are a small fringe
minority of people who are on their way to Ottawa or who are holding unacceptable views that they're expressing.
We're in a very, very, very exciting moment. The question I have is, will we see revolution? And I'm not talking only about Canada, but the world at large. And I think particularly of the Americas and Europe. Because I think revolution is more in our blood here. To fight for our freedom is more in our blood. Will we see revolution? Will the people rise once they finally realize that all of this bullshit that has been going on has been unscientific, that the vast amount of evidence, the great preponderance of evidence, is pointing to this being a pandemic that has come out of a lab, that has been created by NIH and Anthony Fauci, that working with Ralph Baric, who's been producing the virus, and then the EcoHealth Alliance with Peter Daszak being the bridge to the laboratory in China. When people realize that this wasn't a conspiracy theory, but that it is a reality, when people realize that these masks have had incredibly insignificant impact, when they realize that the lockdowns didn't actually have any scientific foundation, and that basically every single measure taken over the past 2 years to protect us have actually made the problem worse and seemingly have had only one intention: to push greater levels of totalitarian control. Will the people revolt when a significant enough amount of people realize this? I wonder. And I think the way that this awakening to the great malfeasance that has been at play over these last years, the way that happens has crucial importance for our way forwards as humanity. Now, I don't know at this point if we're going to see a classical revolution. I don't know. But when I see what's happening in Canada now, when I see what's happening with the various trials around the Western world and the various protests that are being completely blacked out from the media, but I think the count that I heard from Brussels even on the 22nd of January, or was it 23rd, was like 500,000 people. That's not an official number, but that was from the organizers. When 500,000 people are walking through Brussels protesting tyranny, we're not talking about exactly normal times, are we? A lot of people are currently in the process of waking up. According to Matthias Desmet, the now quite famous professor from the Ghent University in Belgium, he is an expert in mass formation. I think it's his numbers that indicates that in the population, generally speaking, there's 30% of the population that are in this mass formation psychosis. So they have completely lost touch with reality. And then you have 30% that are in touch with reality. That is, that is to say they're red-pilled or they're awake or whatever. They're seeing what's happening. And then there's the 40% in the middle that are currently really battling with what is going on in the world. Because clearly, I'm not getting my freedoms back. I was promised my freedoms back. The various jabs that I was going to take was going to give me my freedoms back. And I still need to test. I still need to do crap when I cross the borders. And if you're in countries like Austria or New Zealand or whatever, it's still proper tyranny. So why don't I get my freedoms back when Omicron is everywhere and people aren't really dying from these viruses anymore? Not nearly in the same way. We're reaching herd immunity, and still, many places there is continued pressure. So this 40% of the population are like, what is this? Why don't they yield? Why don't they see what's going on? Why don't they give us our freedoms back? And these 40%, they're looking to the two polarized groups to make sense of the world. So do they look towards the mass formation psychosis people, or do they look towards the people who are connected to reality? This is really the big challenge, I suppose. The big task right now is for these 40% to move over to the 30% that are seeing clearly. And when this happens, I believe, this is how I choose to see it, is we will have less of a chance of a violent revolution. Because if we have a violent revolution, I can't see any other thing that is in some way dooming the next cycle of humanity to go down the same familiar roads towards more tyranny and authoritarian rule. We need to be done with this now. We need to be done with this vengefulness. And so I was very happy to hear that from the Belgium protest in Brussels, the protesters were actually in some kind of ritual where they were sharing love or having positive regard and intention towards the authoritarian overlords, sending love to Fauci and to Klaus Schwab and to the various minions in the various governments around the world, Biden, Macron, Trudeau, loving them, loving their wounded inner child, loving their just distorted mess of a psyche. And that the revolution thus becomes love. Because when the 30% who are in mass formation psychosis wake up, and they probably will as well eventually, the level of dysregulation that they feel is just going to switch to the other side from complete conformity and obedience to wanting to kill everyone who's been in charge. That's what is likely to happen unless we form an alliance of a different kind of consciousness, where the revolution is with love. Yes, there will be a strong boundary. Yes, there will be no more of this bullshit. And yes, there may even be bloodshed. But there won't be vengefulness. There won't be malevolence. Just a boundary saying no. Just like the truckers are saying right now in Canada. Just like everyone who's supporting them right now are saying, it's no. Trudeau hiding in his private little James Bond villain dungeon, I'm sure, hoping to see the storm just blow over, but I don't think it will. Because it's time now for the truth to come out and for these totalitarian minions to really face the people in truth. So the light of consciousness and the fire of our hearts will take us through this. And that is all I have for you today. So go Truckers of Canada, go Freedom Convoy. Just amazing what's happening, and be well all over the world. I'll see you next time.